Welcome back to Haunted Whispers, the place where the dark corners of reality come to life when the world goes quiet. Tonight we bring you 3 terrifying and spine-chilling true stories, perfect for those brave enough to fall asleep to something unsettling. From shadowy figures lurking beneath forgotten bridges, to cursed objects that whisper through time, and night shifts that never truly end. Turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and prepare to hear what should never be heard. These are 3 true stories of people who regret what they saw at night. Let's begin. Story 1. The Shadow Under the Bridge. David was never the type to believe in the supernatural. He was a rational man, a biology teacher by profession, science-driven, grounded in facts. So when his car broke down on a rural road just outside of Asheville, North Carolina, he didn't think much of walking a few miles to find help. His GPS had lost signal, and the sun had already dipped below the mountains, casting long, ominous shadows across the narrow 2-lane road. About half a mile ahead, he saw an old wooden bridge. It spanned a shallow creek, bordered by overgrown trees and thick underbrush. The bridge looked abandoned, but beyond it, he could make out what looked like a small house with lights on. Relieved, he picked up his pace. As he approached the bridge, he heard something strange, a soft, low humming. It wasn't mechanical, it sounded human, like someone humming a lullaby, slowly and rhythmically. David paused, trying to pinpoint the sound. It seemed to be coming from underneath the bridge. He leaned over the wooden railing, shining his flashlight into the dark beneath. Nothing. Just water trickling over smooth stones. But the humming didn't stop. Suddenly, the beam of his flashlight caught something. Movement. Just a flicker, something darting behind a pillar. He called out, "Hello? Are you all right down there?" No answer. The humming stopped. That was when he noticed it. At the far end of the bridge, a figure stood, silhouetted by the light from the house. It wasn't there a moment ago. It was tall, thin, almost spindly. David couldn't make out a face, but the figure was completely still. Too still. "Hey," he called. "My car broke down. Can you help me?" The figure didn't move. David took a cautious step forward. "I just need to use a phone." Still no response. As he walked across the bridge, each step made the old planks creak. He kept his eyes on the figure, but with every step he took, it seemed to grow taller, more defined. And wrong. The proportions were off. Its arms were too long. Its head was slightly tilted, like it was studying him. David stopped. Then, slowly, the figure took one step toward him. David's heart pounded. He stepped back instinctively. The figure took another step forward. He turned to run, but his foot caught on one of the planks. He stumbled hard, dropping his flashlight. It skittered across the bridge and went out, leaving him in near darkness. Panic surged through him as he scrambled to his feet. But now the bridge was empty. The figure was gone. He turned in every direction, trying to catch a glimpse of it again. Then he looked over the railing and saw it. It was under the bridge. Not standing, but clinging to the underside like a spider. Its limbs bent at impossible angles, its face, what little he could make out, twisted in a grin that stretched unnaturally wide. It stared up at him with white, lidless eyes. He ran, sprinting across the bridge, not daring to look back. The humming returned, faster now, urgent and breathy, like it was right behind him. He didn't stop until he reached the house at the end of the road. He pounded on the door. An old woman answered, clearly startled. "I need help," he gasped. "There's something under the bridge, something not human." The woman's expression changed immediately. Her eyes narrowed. "You saw it?" David nodded, still catching his breath. She opened the door wider. "Come in. Quickly." Inside, the house was dimly lit and smelled of sage. The woman led him to the kitchen and poured him a glass of water. "You're lucky," she said. "It doesn't always let people go." David stared at her. "What is it?" She shook her head. "No one knows. It's been there for generations. We call it the shadow." People see it under the bridge. Some hear it humming. Some vanish. Vanish, he repeated. She nodded. My brother saw it when he was a boy. He ran home crying. That night he started sleepwalking. We'd find him outside near the bridge just standing there. One night he didn't come back. David felt a chill run down his spine. I tried to warn the county, she continued. Tried to get them to tear it down. But no one believes an old woman. David sat in stunned silence. I suggest you don't go back, she added. He stayed the night in her guest room. The next morning his car was gone. Not broken down, gone. The sheriff said the road hadn't been traveled in weeks. The house didn't show up on any GPS. Neither did the bridge. David eventually got a ride into town and rented a car to get home. When he tried to find the road again days later, it wasn't there. The landmarks were wrong. The forest had shifted. No one had heard of the old woman or the wooden bridge. But every so often late at night, when David drives near a creek or hears humming from somewhere in the dark, he grips the wheel a little tighter, 'cause he knows it's still out there, waiting under some bridge, for someone else to stop and look. Story 2. Missed Call from 2004. Emily was the kind of person who loved collecting strange objects from the past. Flea markets, antique shops, and estate sales were her favorite places. One Sunday afternoon, she was browsing a dusty antique store tucked between two crumbling buildings downtown when she saw it. A mint-condition Nokia 3310, the indestructible phone from the early 2000s. The old man at the counter said it had been sitting in a box of junk for years. He sold it to her for $5. When she got home, she plugged it into a charger. Surprisingly, the screen lit up. The background was blank, but the battery icon showed full. Only one contact was saved. Home. Curious, Emily clicked through the call log. There was only one missed call, dated October 13, 2004, at 3:13 a.m. But the number looked wrong. Had 17 digits. She assumed it was a software glitch. That night, as she was getting ready for bed, her iPhone rang. The number was private. When she answered, no one spoke at first. Then a raspy voice whispered, "You found it." She hung up immediately. At exactly 3:13 a.m., the phone rang again. The same voice said, "We remember you." Emily was frozen. Her body wouldn't move. Tears welled up in her eyes. Finally the call ended. She dropped the phone and ran into the living room, where she stayed awake with every light on. The next morning she rushed back to the antique store. But it was different. The sign was faded, the windows were dirty, and the lights were off. She knocked, and the same old man opened the door, confused. When she mentioned the phone, he looked at her strangely and said, "This shop hasn't sold anything in 10 years. Emily looked around. Everything seemed off. The cars outside were older models. The ads in the shop had prices from the early 2000s. A newspaper on the counter read, October 13, 2004. She bolted outside, panicking. Her car was gone. Her iPhone had no signal. Every attempt to call or text failed. The only thing that worked was the old Nokia. When she opened it again, the contact home was gone. In its place was a new contact. Us. That night, she sat in her room, clutching the phone. At 3:13 a.m., it rang again. This time she didn't answer. The next morning, she woke up in her bed. Her iPhone was on her nightstand. Everything seemed normal. But the Nokia was still there. Fully charged. Same missed call. Same date. And under the contact list, a new message appeared. You can go back, but we keep a piece. Emily never touched the phone again. But she couldn't get rid of it either. Every attempt to destroy it failed. It wouldn't break. It wouldn't drown. It always came back. Days passed. She avoided the phone like it was cursed. But strange things started happening. Lights flickered at exactly 3:13 a.m. Her alarm clock would reset itself to October 13th. And then she began losing time. She would blink and suddenly be in a different room. She'd walk into her kitchen only to find it set like it was in 2004. Retro appliances, magazines from the time, even her old MySpace profile printed out and pinned to the fridge. Then, just as quickly it would be gone. Terrified, she sought help. Psychics, therapists, even tech experts. No one had answers. One paranormal investigator agreed to take the phone and analyze it. 2 days later, he called her in a panic, voice trembling. "You need to come get this. It's not a phone. It's a key." When she arrived at his office, the man was gone. The door was open, lights flickering. On his desk, the Nokia sat atop a handwritten note. "It opens more than one door." Emily drove home, heart racing. The phone was hot to the touch. She placed it in a locked box, stuffed it in a drawer and sealed it with tape. That night, she dreamed of endless hallways and ringing phones. She woke up with her hands covered in ink, numbers scribbled on her palms. Each year on October 13th the phone rings. She never answers. But the messages keep changing. Last year's message said, "You left us behind." This year's simply read, "Next time we answer for you." Story 3. The Night Watchman. Alan had worked the night shift as a watchman at the old garment factory for nearly 10 years. It was an aging, creaky place, but the pay was decent, and he liked the solitude. The factory had shut down in the late 90s and was repurposed for storage and document archiving. Alan's job was simple. Walk the perimeter every hour, check the locks, and log any unusual activity. Nothing unusual ever happened. That changed on a rainy Thursday night in November. It began with the lights flickering in the eastern wing, where no lights should have been on at all. That section of the factory had been sealed off for asbestos cleanup a few years back, and was supposed to remain completely unused. Still, Alan grabbed his flashlight and started his rounds. The building groaned under the weight of years. Pipes rattled, and the storm outside made the roof creak. As Alan approached the eastern wing, the air grew cold, unnaturally so. He chalked it up to a draft, but something gnawed at the back of his mind. Then he saw it. A light was glowing from beneath the sealed door. Pale and flickering like candlelight. He tried the handle. He knocked. No answer. Just as he turned to walk away, he heard it. A low hum like someone chanting. He pressed his ear to the door. The hum grew louder, deeper, until it wasn't a hum at all but something guttural, like a growl forming words. Then silence. Alan stepped back. The light vanished. Temperature rose slightly. Shaken, he returned to his security office, reviewed the CCTV, and was shocked to find the eastern wing camera, though long inactive, had recorded static at exactly the time he stood outside the door. The next night, the lights returned. This time, Alan brought bolt cutters. He hesitated at first, but curiosity won. The lock broke easily. He pushed the door open. The room was empty. Dusty boxes and rusted machines lined the space. No candles, no people. But one thing stood out. An old-time clock mounted on the wall, blinking 3 a.m. over and over. The building had been fully digital for over a decade, and that clock hadn't functioned since the early 2000s. When he touched it, the world shifted. Suddenly, the room was filled with people. Workers in outdated uniforms operated machines, their faces expressionless. The hum returned. Alan blinked, and it was gone. Dust and silence again. The clock, however, now read 3:01. He told himself he was imagining it. Maybe a trick of the light, maybe exhaustion. But the next night and the one after, the same thing happened. At exactly 3 a.m., the clock lit up. The factory reawakened. One night, Alan waited inside. He hid behind a stack of boxes and watched as the workers materialized again, repeating the same mechanical motions. Then one of them stopped. Slowly, the man turned his head and looked directly at Alan. "Why are you still here?" he asked. Alan couldn't speak. The man stepped forward and the others stopped working. They all turned in unison, eyes wide, unblinking. "You don't belong here," another said. Alan stumbled backward and ran, slamming the door behind him. He returned to his office, locked the door, and sat in silence until morning. He reported what he'd seen to his supervisor, who laughed it off. "Ghosts in the factory, huh? Maybe they'll finish the payroll for me." But Alan knew what he saw. He tried to quit, but something stopped him. He'd draft the resignation email, only to find it unsent the next day. He'd leave voicemails that mysteriously disappeared. The more he tried to leave, the more drawn he felt to that room. One night, Alan arrived for his shift to find a new note on the time clock. "Punch in." He didn't remember writing it. He hadn't told anyone about the clock. Still, he hesitated. Then he pressed the button. Clock blinked. 3 a.m. And the world shifted again. This time, Alan was among the workers. He could feel the weight of the tools in his hand, the smell of oil in the air. The others moved around him, and this time he moved with them. He couldn't stop himself. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. When he awoke, he was back in the security office. But his hands were black with grease. His clothes smelled like smoke. Time clock was gone. No door. No eastern wing. Nothing. He asked maintenance to check it, but the record said that section of the building had been sealed for over 20 years. Alan's bolt cutters were missing. The security footage showed nothing. It was as if he'd never been there. But each night he felt himself drifting, sleepwalking toward the east wing, hearing the hum in his dreams. Last week, Alan didn't clock out. They found his keys in the office. His chair still warm, but no sign of him. And now, every night at exactly 3 a.m., the time clock, long dismantled, blinks to life again, waiting for the next watchman to punch in.